2 years ago, a few weeks before Donald Trump actually announced that he was going to run for president, I gave a speech to a group of Jewish men and women in a synagogue up in Massachusetts, and I explained to them that the next president, if he or she were to say, Americans first, they would not only be elected, but that they would put your life and your country back on track. Somebody says that, somebody says I'm taking care of Americans first, and then when everybody's on a pathway to the American dream, I love the pathway word, right? Pathway to citizenship. No, when everybody's on the pathway to the American dream, that's when I'll start worrying about everybody else. But right now, I've got Americans living in the streets. I've got Americans who are failing in school. I've got Americans who can't make more money than they did 7 years ago. Boy, why is that happening? I'll tell you why, because we're flooding the country with more workers. The first person who stands up and does that, and is actually given the time of day, is the next president of the United States. That's the person who will get your life and your country back on track.
Right now, Chris Wallace, are looking much tighter than I think the Clinton camp may have expected. Now, there's still a lot of outstanding vote to be counted, but we haven't made calls in Virginia, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, Colorado, Arizona on his side, but a lot of those blue states that we thought were going to be blue that we haven't been able to call.
I think we're all, at least I'm coming to the conclusion tonight, conclusion's the wrong word, to open to the possibility Donald Trump could be the next president of the United States. Donald Trump could be the next president of the United States.
The crowd.
I just said it's a possibility. They're cheering on her. No, look, Florida, I believed as we sat down here at 6 o'clock tonight that Hillary Clinton was going to take it. I think a lot of us bought into the idea the Hispanics were going to be the difference, big surge. Now we're counting votes. I mean, now we're down to single votes. This could go either way. North Carolina could go either way. Ohio could go either way. New Hampshire could go either way. Look, I think you'd still rather be in Clinton's position than Trump's as we sit here right now. But you can certainly write a scenario. He has not lost any state that he must have. He's competitive and within the margin of error in a lot of states that I think we thought she was going to put away. He could be our next president.
And then, Britt, you get into the Rust Belt states, and you get into Pennsylvania, and you get into Michigan. You even get into Minnesota.
And what appears to be happening is that Clinton is doing well in all the places where we thought she would, and Donald Trump is doing very well, and perhaps even better than expected, in the rural areas, in the blue-collar areas where we thought he would do well. And we're now at a point in this where, yeah, you look at the advantages, you look at the map, and you say, yes, Hillary Clinton still has an advantage, but he's in this. I mean, he is in this.
Absolutely.
At this hour.
You know, to flip to the other side, you could, if all of these states that are too close to call now flip her way, she could win a landslide victory. But as you said, Brett, he is still in this right now. I'm not sure a lot of us thought he would be at this hour.
If you're a Democrat and you're at an election watch party in my neighborhood in Northwest D.C., you are horrified right now because you are horrified right now because you consider, thank you, a Democrat confirming, you consider Trump not just a buffoon, but evil, a monster. He's a moron and he's stupid, in your view. And you're behind the single best financed campaign in the history of democracy going back to the Roman Republic. Like, no one's ever had more money.
His producer, Maxim Lott, run a website in which they track the betting odds. It updates every minute. At the moment, you're not going to believe this, at the moment, it rates Donald Trump with a 75.1% chance of winning the election, as opposed to a 24.6% chance.
We got a lot of people with money on this thing.
Just put down a bet. In addition to that, the stock futures have been plunging on the news that Mr. Trump is doing better.
As you were talking, a critical swing state has been called by the Fox News decision desk. A critical swing state has been called by the Fox News decision desk. Ohio will be Donald Trump's category. A victory for Donald Trump in Ohio can be called by the Fox News decision desk at this point. That is 18 electoral votes. No Republican has won the White House without winning the state of Ohio. So now you have the electoral votes at 168 electoral votes for Donald Trump, 131 for Hillary Clinton. He still has some work to do, as we mentioned, about winning blue states in that blue wall. But he is on his way. We have not called Florida yet.
Yeah, and I've spoken to a number of plugged-in Democrats over the course of the evening. At the beginning of the night, they were confident. I would say supremely confident Then a few hours later, queasy. Okay, but queasy. Now, I'm not going to say full-blown panic, but borderline panic in Democrat world. And there's another thing to think about here. If you're Hillary Clinton right now, man, you have to be looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, America is rendering a verdict, regardless of whether or not she pulls this out, and now it's looking more likely for him than anyone ever thought to actually win the presidency. She is a surreally, historically loathed political character. The fact that she is in real danger of losing the presidency to someone whose disapproval rating's 60%. She is a surreally, historically loathed political character. The fact that she is in real danger of losing the presidency to someone whose disapproval rating's 60%. And once again, Donald Trump is defying expectations. Totally. Again, when will we learn? When will we learn?
Trump is talking about ripping up NAFTA, talking about repealing and replacing Obamacare. These are all unknown. So that's one reason that the market is selling off. I would predict to you, Brett, that this ultimately will be a huge buying opportunity. Because when you look at both candidates' economic plans, on the Trump side, he wants to lower taxes and roll back regulations. Regulation has been the one barrier for small business and large business, by the way, in terms of growth. Economic growth is the priority. That's what this country needs right now. That's what will be positive for the markets. And I think ultimately people will view this major sell-off tomorrow as a huge buying opportunity.
The 538 blog that has had Clinton ahead all night.
Yeah.
55% chance Trump wins the presidency.
Well, that's been changing all night. That updates by the minute.
Yeah, more importantly, Ohio has picked the president the last 13 elections in a row. So, I mean, everybody always talks about Republicans can't win without it. They have picked the president 13 elections in a row. This is a big deal.
This is a huge deal. And these changes we're seeing with betting markets and financial markets, and all, these are meaningful. These are people who got a lot on the line. And this is the first time this particular prognosticator, the 538 blog, extremely well regarded as such things go, has thought that Trump was going to win.
The crowd whooping it up. They're watching Fox News Channel very, very carefully. Winning Ohio keeps the Trump plan in place. It's a really simple strategy. Win all the Romney states, pierce that blue wall, and they can do it. We know now that there's about 95% of the vote in Florida, and it's very, very tight, just a couple of points. North Carolina, 83% of the vote in, and still very close. Michigan's only got 30% of the vote in, and it is a long way for the Michigan vote to get full. And that means if Trump can hold on to all the Romney states, which included Ohio, if he can defend North Carolina and pull off a victory in Michigan, that would get him to 275 Electoral College votes if he holds all of the Romney red states. So lots of reason for real enthusiasm and a renewed optimism here at Trump headquarters tonight, Brett.
One is the question of whether or not trade takes away jobs. 64% said that was important to them, and they believe that trade takes away jobs. Take a look at the union vote. They went for President Obama 60% in the union vote. 37% of union voters went for Mitt Romney. Trump's got 50% of them. This is the audience that he has spoken to so powerfully in Ohio. And in places like Michigan and Wisconsin as well. It's that Midwest Rust Belt that he is trying to put together, and it indicates that it's working for him in the numbers in Ohio. Also in incremental ways, he has pushed the needle with some of these groups and expanded that area a little bit for Republicans, and it's quite interesting to see how all this is playing out.
The New York Times, which is no friend of Donald Trump, says chances of Trump winning the presidency, 91%.
Wow. Still waiting to hear what is going to happen in Pennsylvania, in Florida, and North Carolina. One of the biggest prizes, Ohio, already gone to Donald Trump. Stay tuned. We're about to make a major call. And we are about to make a major call. Fox News Decision Desk is now projecting that Donald Trump has won the state of North Carolina. And that is huge for Donald Trump. This is exactly what he needed to do. Win Ohio, win North Carolina, Florida's part of it, and then pick off a blue. That's what he's trying to do. That's what he's hoping to do. We're waiting on Florida. We're waiting on several states, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota. But right now, if you're in the Trump camp, with the exception of Colorado and New Mexico, which have gone for Hillary Clinton, you've got to say this night is going directly according to plan. And that is huge for Donald Trump. This is exactly what he needed to do. Win Ohio, win North Carolina, Florida's part of it, and then pick off a blue. That's what he's trying to do. That's what he's hoping to do. We're waiting on Florida. We're waiting on several states, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota. But right now, if you're in the Trump camp, with the exception of Colorado and New Mexico, which have gone for Hillary Clinton, you've got to say this night is going directly according to plan. We're taking a look at Trump headquarters here in New York City, which is at the Hilton Hotel here on 6th Avenue, steps away from where the Fox News channel is, and you can feel the enthusiasm, and the reports have come back that the enthusiasm there has picked up as the mood over at Clinton campaign headquarters, which is also here in New York City at a big convention center, has changed dramatically as they begin to realize their plan. It could still come out the way they want. Don't get me wrong. But they would much rather have seen Trump lose one of these critical states. I want to toss it up to Brett, who's upstairs at our data desk. Brett?
Wow. I mean, this is pretty amazing. Bill Hemmer, we're working the map, and now that North Carolina win for Donald Trump, you look at the map, It's starting to line up. Aren't we now shifting? Aren't we talking now about what is her path to get to 270? We have spent weeks and weeks talking about what's his path. Donald Trump will win the state of Florida. According to the Fox News decision desk, he will win the 29 electoral votes in Florida. A very tight race, but he is pulling that off. As you can see, the crowds outside here cheering. 49% to 47% right now, but we can project that he is going to win Florida. That means he has won Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio. This is the triple states that he needed to win to make the path possible. And as you just saw, Megan, upstairs, it's very possible as of this moment.
If you need the inside straight, he is well on his way, although it's not yet over. It is 11 o'clock here in New York City. Polls have just closed in 5 more states, representing another 82 electoral votes, most of which will go to Hillary Clinton. Fox News can now project that Clinton will win California's 55 electoral votes, the largest single batch in the country. Our Fox Decision Desk also projects that Mrs. Clinton will win the states of Washington and Hawaii, which collectively represent another 16 electoral votes.
On the Republican side, Donald Trump will win Idaho's 4 electoral votes based on Fox News exit polls. That leaves Oregon, which votes entirely by mail. So we'll have to wait a bit longer to determine who will win that state's 7 electoral votes. But we can probably project that it heads towards Hillary Clinton's way.
Nice cliffhanger, Oregon.
Paradigm is blown up, and we are talking about a global populist movement. There's a reason why during the primaries, Bernie Sanders supporters and Donald Trump supporters hated Washington and Wall Street equally. Right? They both hated both of them. There is a realignment, and I think both parties are going to have to struggle to figure it out. Even if Donald Trump wins tonight, the Republican Party is going to have a major internal fight to try to figure that out.
The reason why Hillary Clinton was even addressed by Jim Comey 10 days before the election is because she made a decision to set up a private, unsecured email server and to put her convenience under the priority of the national security of the country. And based on the exit polling that we're seeing, people across the board found her email situation troubling, including Democrats. Her own staffers, as we've seen in emails, were concerned about the fact that she had used a private server while she was at the State Department. And I think going back to the point of things changing in the country to respond to what the Clinton campaign is saying, if Hillary Clinton loses tonight, it's not going to be because she's a woman, first of all. We've heard that argument. And second of all, it's going to be because she's a corrupt representation of the past. And we've seen this election with Donald Trump as the candidate be a natural progression of the 2010 historic turnover of the House and the historic turnover of the Senate as well. Those were both similar elections. We didn't have the candidate with Mitt Romney, and Donald Trump came along, and I think is a natural extension of that kind of attitude towards the Washington establishment.
I should point out that Donald Trump is now 64 electoral votes away from becoming the next president of the United States.
54. Right?
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said 60.
Oh, I said 64. I meant 54. I'm sorry. 54 electoral votes. They told me there'd be no math. Your take of where we are.
Well,
this is bigger, it seems, than any one moment. It is a combination of things.
You know, it's funny. Just at a personal level, I wasn't covering politics in 2000. I always regretted that I didn't get this. This could be our 2000. This could be one of these elections that takes on a life of its own on election night and is just an inflection moment in the history of this country. In the history of this country. We don't know. Look, Hillary Clinton could still very much win this election. I mean, this is not over by any stretch of the imagination. But to get back to Katie's point, I don't think that Comey/private emails is separate from the Brexit thing. It's all part of the ins versus the outs, the establishment versus the populace, the people. And I think that just shows that there is and which we didn't fully detect, but we had an inkling of it, that people are just, a lot of people, millions of people, are fed up with politics and politicians as usual, and they just, even if they're not sure about Donald Trump, they figure, it isn't, let me just say, that it isn't working, let's just throw them all out, we'll put them in, and if he doesn't work, we'll fire him in 4 years.
Just want to stand by 1 second, because we have a call to make, Britt. Fox News is ready to make a projection on the state of Utah, projecting that Donald Trump will win the state of Utah, which has been very contested. Evan McMullin, a third party, a Mormon in Utah, gave Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton a run for their money out there. And
Chris's excellent point, which is one person, the outsider, was the one who saw this political reality, and it was Donald Trump. One person, the outsider, was the one who saw this political reality, and it was Donald Trump. Ted Cruz had the same insight, but he fell by the wayside because he was too much of an insider in part, I think. Donald Trump had the insight. He understood that there was this tremendous force in the electorate, this sentiment, and he capitalized on it and got himself nominated, and now he may well have gotten himself elected. And that owes something to one other thing, which is when it got down to the end and the things began to turn his way, all of the stuff he had been doing all along stopped. There was no picking fights with people smaller than himself. There was none of that. He campaigned in the most disciplined fashion.
The campaign took the Twitter feed away?
Yeah, the campaign actually took his Twitter feed away, and he obviously allowed that to happen. But his disciplined campaigning at the end, and he summoned the self-discipline to do that, I think is something that goes a long way tonight to explaining how he was able to get this to the posture it's in right now.
Mm-hmm. If this continues going in this way, I'll ask you this, Tucker. Do you think people like John Fedoris tonight are suggesting that Barack Obama will have effectively presided over the collapse of the Democratic Party? Now, we've seen every time we do one of these elections, whoever loses, the other side says, they collapsed, they're dead, they'll never come back, right? But if she doesn't win this tonight and the Democrats don't win control of the Senate, as almost everybody projected they would do, it's a colossal failure. It's a colossal failure.
Well, that's for sure. And it doesn't even, I mean, look, it's a precarious coalition. It's the rich and the poor don't actually have a huge union set of shared interests, is the truth. And I think the Bernie phenomenon kind of laid that bare. But I think the truth is, of course, voters are mad at Washington. But I don't think they can match the contempt that Washington has for them. Huh. I mean, what's the message? Every time you turn on the television, it's not just that Trump is a buffoon, it's that his voters are worse. They're disgusting. Every time you turn on the television, it's not just that Trump is a buffoon, it's that his voters are worse. They're disgusting. There's no sympathy from the ruling class for the people over whom they preside. I mean, that's just true. I live in that world. And I have to say, like, you have a huge population in the middle of the country whose life expectancy is declining. That has never happened. And no one says anything about it. If the life expectancy of Syrian refugees were going down, we would have a primetime address from the president. That would be a huge deal.
Well, that's why the basket of deplorables was such a
Because it was so real. I mean, they really feel that way. This is a revolt against the elites. The Democrats put up an elitist and a populist year. What do you think's going to happen? Even if she wins, you can kind of see the lesson has been learned, one would hope, finally.
Let's be clear. If Donald Trump wins, which, again, I would say is still a big if, but if Donald Trump wins, to John Podhoretz's point, I would say he's presiding over a collapse of the Republican Party as well. There is a complete and total realignment of the Republican Party.
Mo,
that
if
is
you're a
going on
Bernie
here.
Sanders supporter tonight and you're looking at these numbers and you look at this and say, see, don't you?
Look, I think this what is happening out there, if Hillary Clinton wins tonight, this is something she's going to have to tomorrow hit the ground running to address. That what is happening out there right now is bigger than any candidate. Donald Trump is a flawed messenger of this message. He is a flawed messenger of this message. Exit polls are showing that a lot of his voters don't like him.
He's doing pretty well for a flawed messenger.
That doesn't mean look, his history has lots of flawed messengers who go on to win, right?
Well, look at it this way also, Mo. I mean, look out across the country. How are Republicans doing at state-level races? How are they doing in the state houses tonight? They've swept the state houses once more. How are they doing in the House of Representatives? They're going to retain control of the House. How are they doing in the Senate? They're going to. It looks like now they're going to retain control of the Senate.
But there will likely be a more narrower majority in both the House and the Senate.
If you're facing 24 to 10 odds,
right now,
you're likely to lose.
But the point is, Democrats are picking up some of those seats, right? I'm not. I do not think. I think we all make a mistake. Democrats and Republicans alike make a mistake if we continue to look at this election through the prism of D versus R, left versus right. This is different. The Republican Party has
a
major soul
I think that's a very good point, and I don't disagree with it. But I would say that if you look at the structure of the offices held across the country, the Republican Party looks to be in pretty good shape. The Republican Party looks to be in pretty good shape.
But she now has to run.
She now has to run the table. I want to go back to a point that Mo and Tucker have been talking about. Look, both parties are being roiled by populism, and it's happening across the world, and it's happening in both parties. Let's be honest about that. Donald Trump is a populist of the right, of the conservative, of not the conservative variety, on the right, and he got 44% of the vote in the Republican primaries. An obscure backbencher from Vermont who has no accomplishments to his name ran as a populist to the left and got 47% in the Democratic Party against the most formidable machine inside the Democratic Party, Hillary and Bill Clinton, backed by the sitting president of the United States and backed by the money powers within the Democratic Party. So both parties are being roiled by this, and how they resolve this is going to determine the next state of American politics. But that doesn't mean that the American people have risen to their cause. A lot of this, particularly the energy behind Trump, is being driven by a deep concern about what President Obama is doing to this country and an anger over the transformation of the country in front of their lives without their say. If the president doesn't get something through Congress, he does it by executive action and rubs their noses in it. A lot of this, particularly the energy behind Trump, is being driven by a deep concern about what President Obama is doing to this country and an anger over the transformation of the country in front of their lives without their say. If the president doesn't get something through Congress, he does it by executive action and rubs their noses in it.
Now, this is a reflection on Washington, D.C. We saw it in Brexit. People off in Brussels telling them how much they could use in electricity and when they could plug their toaster in at nighttime. I mean, this is a reflection of big government and a referendum on President Obama, quite frankly, and all of the big government over the last years, and really controlling how people make their decisions that impact their lives, whether it's their Obamacare premiums or whether it's the EPA implementing insane regulations on small businesses out in the country where we're seeing Trump voters come to the polls today.
This is a revolt of the unprotected class against the protected elite class, because the unprotected class, the people on the ground, have to live with the consequences of legislation and executive orders and everything else that the protected class has inflicted on them. Donald Trump went out there every single day when he stayed on message and was speaking directly to those voters about the issues that directly affect their livelihoods: economic growth, wage stagnation, job creation, illegal immigration, building the wall, the existential threat of Islamic terror. He spoke directly to those people who feel their economic security threatened, the national security threatened, and he was able, by doing so, he was able to forge an emotional bond with these voters, which is something that money cannot buy, just as Mrs. Clinton, which is something that money cannot buy, just as Mrs. Clinton.
But here's one interesting question for you. Here's one interesting question. One thing about Trump that we don't really know is how he would govern, right? He's smart enough to say what he needed to say in the primary to get the nomination, and smart enough to say what he needed to say in the general to at least give her a hell of a run for her money, if not win this outright tonight. If he gets into office, do we really know? I mean, given the number of positions he's had and his life, Tucker, do we really know?
No, we don't know. We don't know.
We'd be getting.
I mean, that's the gamble. We know pretty much what Hillary's going to do, right? I mean, she telegraphed it. She's going to go hard on climate, you know, et cetera. We don't know Trump. We know that one of his great passions is trade. Does that mean he's going to erect a 35% trade, tariff? Probably not. Does it mean he's going to push for enforcement of the existing trade agreements? Yeah, probably. I mean, that is a real focus for him. It's totally sincere. It's genuine. You know, you've talked to him about it. Immigration, border security, another. But beyond that, no, we don't. We know he's pretty liberal on the social issues, actually. Mm-hmm. You know, he's not at all a conventional Republican. We know he's pretty anti-war. That's the other thing. I mean, for all the talk about how he's going to, blow up Russia or blow up, do the bidding of Russia, he's actually like the most articulate anti-war candidate the Republicans have ever nominated in my lifetime anyway. But we don't really know. That's true.
Let's take a look at the Trump headquarters and the Clinton headquarters quickly. I mean, they're not cheering at the Trump headquarters. I think they're on pins and needles. But look at the Clinton headquarters. It's like they're motionless. They're
doing the mannequin challenge.
Are they doing the mannequin?
Like a wake.
It's like they're
motionless. They're doing the mannequin challenge.
Are they doing the mannequin?
Like a wake.
Has the momentum right now. He's had North Carolina, Florida, and Ohio all going to the Republican nominee.
But a few big states are still up in the air, including Michigan and Pennsylvania. Stay with us live from Fox News World Headquarters on an unbelievable night. The drama's gone.
The drama's gone.
The drama's not gone, however, in the overall race, and it's certainly not gone at Trump headquarters and Clinton headquarters. Just take a look at the situations there. We're going to check in first with Carl Cameron, who's live at Trump HQ. What's the mood there in that room, Carl?
Hi, Megyn. I just got a call from a senior Trump official who was clearly very optimistic, clearly pumped up about what they're watching, and keenly interested in what's going on in Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, New Hampshire, Iowa, all these states where they are seeing the possibility of accumulating what they need to get to 270. The biggest target here is Michigan. The Trump campaign, Donald Trump and Mike Pence, campaigned there into Election Day as the last campaign event of their entire pre-Election Day campaign last night. They were able to say when the clock struck midnight that, hey, it's now Election Day, everybody go get ready to vote. There was such symbolism in that, and frankly, a lot of skepticism. They were leaving Ohio and Florida and other states to go up into the industrial Midwest, to go to Michigan that hasn't voted Republican since Ronald Reagan. It was back in the 80s that the Reagan Democrats in Michigan were invented. And now it looks like if he can pull off a victory there, they will be Trump Democrats, Trump moderates, Trump independents coming out of Michigan that has the potential to put him over the top. It's still going to be a nail biter. It's still going to be a late night. But they've got lots of real estate where they can pick up the necessary electors to get over the top tonight. Megyn, Brett.
Carl, thanks.
222 to 209. Let's go over to Jenn Griffin at Clinton campaign headquarters. Jenn, we looked in there and it was very still.
Absolutely. It is subdued. There are moments where you could hear a pin drop. We have not seen any top campaign aides for several hours now. We have not seen any top campaign aides for several hours now. So they are not coming out. We are told from sources on the campaign that they are very nervous right now. They do say, however, that nothing Hillary Clinton has ever gotten in her life has ever come easily.
Point out that we have not called Alaska, Arizona, Georgia, Iowa, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. That's a lot of real estate.
Wow. Anything could happen. I want to bring back now the co-hosts of The Five, Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Eric Bolling, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. Unbelievable. 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 Right?
You said it.
Let me start with you, Juan, as the Democrat. I mean, what's the truth there at Clinton headquarters? They have to be in full-on panic mode now, no?
I think so. I don't think there's anybody watching tonight who's a Democrat who is not just bewildered, but sick to their stomach. I mean, like, how does this make sense? It's just out of the blue. It's not only that it doesn't comport with what we have seen in terms of the polls, and the polls say they don't think he's qualified, he doesn't have the temperament, it doesn't comport with the strategy, oh, we're going to turn out more white working-class voters than Mitt Romney. They really haven't. They got a little higher percentage in terms of the vote for Donald Trump than Mitt Romney did from that cohort. But overall, you just have to say, what is the heart of this?
I think the mistake here was portraying this as insider versus outsider. This is culture versus culture. When you're in a small town and Katy Perry and Lady Gaga and Funny or Die and Miley Cyrus mocks you for your unhappiness and for your beliefs, you now see millions of people saying, I've had enough of that culture. I don't need you anymore. This was the FU to popular culture. Hillary is less liked than the flu, but it's more than that. It's about the people that assumed that she had this to begin with, that she was entitled. Very rare will I give a mea culpa, but I got to give it to Michael Moore. You had him on.
Absolutely.
He was the most correct person on this because he was on the left and he saw what was happening. He saw a wide swath of people that were unhappy and were ignored by the left and the right. I have to buy him his favorite pie because he nailed this. Lastly, the one thing about Trump, ideology is dead. He killed it.
Hold on.
Stand by.
There's a big old call to make right now, and there's a big old call to make right now, and that is Fox News is projecting that Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin. Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin, and there goes her blue wall. That's 10 electoral votes. That brings Trump up to 232, and he has officially pierced the blue wall that she needed to hold on to, which is momentous. Wisconsin was barely in play. That's 10 electoral votes. That brings Trump up to 232, and he has officially pierced the blue wall that she needed to hold on to, which is momentous. I actually have the quote here. Joe Blow, Steve Blow, Bob Blow, all the Blows get to go and blow up the whole G-damn system because that's your right. Trump's election is going to be the biggest FU ever recorded in human history.
Right.
Trump's election is going to be the biggest FU ever recorded in human history.
Right.
And it will feel good. And then he said, for a day, and he predicted doom and gloom after that. But he understands this group of people, this group of voters, Kimberly.
Yes.
And had been saying all along to the Democrats, dismiss him at your own peril.
You're right, and he started saying on your show as well.
Stand by.
Oh, can we get another one?
Fox News can now project that Iowa will go to Donald Trump. 6 electoral votes for Donald Trump. Iowa, the state of Iowa. He has turned the state of Iowa to Donald Trump.
We have another call to make. Fox News Decision Desk is now projecting that Donald Trump has won the state of Georgia, which is also important. It wasn't. This again is part of the Romney coalition, so he needed to win this. This is part of the assumption to that 253, but an important one to him, and it has gone red. And
it did take a long
failed
time to get there, but she did not flip it. Go ahead.
You know what this is? This is, if Donald Trump holds the rest of the Romney states and he's projected to win, that's 269, which gives him the victory, assuming the House votes for him versus. There's your 16, folks. I mean, you're watching history being made.
Hillary Clinton's team and campaign event tonight is at the Javits Center here in New York City, this big convention center. And the report from our producer on the field is that some people are crying in the audience, and some are beginning to leave because they are feeling something very different from what the folks at Trump campaign headquarters are feeling and from what the people outside of this window right here. I mean, it's a momentous night, but we don't often have, throngs of people standing outside of the Fox News channel at 11:30 p.m. waiting on every result. Kimberly, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Trump definitely exceeded all expectations. People always said he's a closer, don't count him out. We saw that in the primaries, but he spoke to people, he connected to them as if they felt he was sitting at their table having dinner with them, talking to them about their paychecks, talking to them about their families, talking about Drain the Swamp, about turning politics and ideology on its head. But he spoke to people, he connected to them as if they felt he was sitting at their table having dinner with them, talking to to them about their paychecks, talking to them about their families, talking about draining the swamp, about turning politics and ideology on its head. It's, in fact, in many ways, a repudiation of politics the way we knew it in this country before today.
Let me add,
with this turnout, and look at the popular vote already. I mean, a lot of people came out for him, and the polls were in large measure not accurate in terms of what they predicted for Hillary Clinton.
Dana,
what is the reaction to this going to be tomorrow, Juan, from Democrats who not only believed he had no chance, but feared him? I mean, this hasn't been your average election where it's like, I don't love Mitt Romney, but I could live with him, right? This has been very different.
I think it's very different, and I think people still do not think this is real. I mean, it's like, oh my God, is this a movie?
This is how real it is. If Trump wins Maine's 2nd congressional district, Michigan, Pennsylvania, or New Hampshire, he's the president.
Yeah. Right. No, I'm saying that's real. I can read the numbers. I don't know what happens in Nevada. We'll see. But to my mind, you asked about tomorrow morning and how people feel when they pick up the paper, when they hear Fox News Channel. And I still think among Democrats and even some Republicans, there's going to be a huge sense of disbelief.
You know what it is? Imagine for the Democrats, this is not a hangover. It's the hangover after a 3-day bachelor party bender where you wake up and your clothes are missing and half your bank account is gone.
That happens every weekend.
I know. That's how I can tell. No, this is it'll be a shock to the system. It will take time for them to get over it. The interesting thing about Trump is that people, when he talked about the rigged system, all he did was steal from Obama's playbook. Obama said America was rigged against a disadvantage. He just replaced disadvantaged with patriot, nationalist. He just replaced it. America was rigged against a disadvantage. He just replaced disadvantaged with patriot, nationalist. He just replaced it.
Look at the possibility tonight that Donald Trump could win the presidency, Republicans could hold the Senate,
right.
and Republicans can hold the House.
And guess what?
What does that mean for the country? What does that mean for the U.S.?
I think in the first 100 days, I think you do repeal and replace Obamacare with something that would be more palatable to business and small business. I think that would be number one. The second thing I think that you'll see, definitely Supreme Court. I mean, that's just huge. It's huge for Republicans. Definitely Supreme Court. I mean, that's just huge. It's huge for Republicans if they keep it.
Stand by. We have another call to make. Fox News Decision Desk is now projecting that Donald Trump has won the state of Georgia.
The country has spoken. And I do push back on the insider versus the outsider. I think he is the outsider, and that's what they're ready for.
Coming back to Michigan here in a moment here. And look what this state is doing at the moment compared to 4 years ago, right? You see the blue fill in? It's all Trump.
Different story. It's a different story.
And the same thing up here in Wisconsin, too. You know, we've been messing with these maps all night. Watch down here 4 years ago, Megan. Right over here.
Yep.
All the blue counties. And Trump's message has worked in that part of the country.
And campaign headquarters, some people crying, stone-faced. They can't believe it. And we're back with our panel: Britt Hume, Chris Wallace, Karl Rove, Chris Stirewalt, Joe Trippi, and Tucker Carlson. Thought right now. I mean, what you came into the night pretty confident.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised, and yeah, you know, never. I thought.
Are heads exploding with people you're talking to, or what's happening?
No, I think most. People, it wasn't that they thought that she was going to blow him out or anything, but they thought there was no path or very tough for him to get to 270. Yeah. And that was her protection, you know, with all the flaws and everything else. They thought that was going, I thought, too.
She's now where we thought he was.
Right, exactly. It's totally flipped. That's the shock is. It's not that she doesn't have a path to 270, but she's now the one that has to thread the needle.
Karl Rove.
I came into tonight thinking that he could sweep, but probably wouldn't sweep Ohio, North Carolina, and Florida. But in Wisconsin, we made a run at that state twice. came within 5,500 votes in 2000.
Talk about that for a second. The lack of what was perceived as a lack of a ground game with the Trump campaign. The RNC had a ground game in a lot of these states. Hold on.
Yeah.
And he was criticized by a lot of people, a lot of election experts who said, this is a nothing campaign. He's not spending enough money. He's not running ads, but he was doing free media, bouncing around the country, and he ran the inside straight.
Well, if he winning Wisconsin, he ought to thank two people, Governor Scott Walker and Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, because they have built in that state a political machine through Walker's races that extends from the top to the bottom and is better organized than probably any state in the country.
Talking about whether Trump would be a drag for these Republicans running for office in the Senate and the House, and it may turn out that Trump lifted them all up, and that some of these guys have their reelection. They have him to thank in part for their reelection. It may turn out that Trump lifted them all up, and that some of these guys have their reelection. They have him to thank in part for their reelection.
By the division, so of people who voted for Hillary Clinton, according to the first poll we got tonight, 97% said that a Trump win would be, quote, scary. 97%. So it's not just Hillary who's in mourning tonight. It's the entire Democratic Party. It's virtually every corporate CEO. It's every director of every big bank. It's every hedge fund manager. It's almost every elected official in Washington. It's every lobbyist. It's every pollster. It's the entire, I'm serious, it's the entire world that we live in. Every person's looking up and saying, you know, what is this? They didn't understand the country they presided over. Will they accept him as a legitimate president? I think that's a real question if he wins.
And a serious question about that is, as you can see with these popular vote totals, as Joe and I were talking about before, so the conversation for a long time was, would Donald Trump accept the result of the election? Would he say it was rigged? Well, there's a good question that's cooking up for Hillary Clinton supporters tonight,
exactly,
which is if Donald Trump wins an electoral majority but has a popular defeat, are Democrats going to be cool in the gang when it comes to talking about
And here we go. This is a Fox News election alert. Pennsylvania goes to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. The 20 electoral votes from the state of Pennsylvania, we just got new metrics in. Donald J. Trump is the president of the United States elect. He won't be inaugurated until January, but the word has just reached the New York Hilton. Donald J. Trump, the son of a Queens millionaire, defied all conventional wisdom and all expectations. The long-term practices of the Republican Party were stood on their head. He spoke to the disaffected. He spoke a sense of trickle-down economics.
The Fox News decision desk has called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. This means that Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States, winning the most unreal, surreal election we have ever seen. This candidacy starting on an escalator ride 1 year ago and going down against 16 Republican candidates. What started off as unlikely, impossible, is now reality. He said he was always a winner. This did not come without controversy. The billionaire, entrepreneur, TV reality star has defeated the candidate once figured to be undefeatable, besting Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in an electoral college victory that virtually no one saw coming a year ago, a few months ago,
a week
even
ago.
a month ago, even yesterday, and a path to victory that was unlike anything we've ever seen. It did not come without controversy. It did not come without splitting this country in some of the most divisive language. It does come now at a time where his supporters say this is the evidence that Washington was not working. They wanted to kick over the table and do something different.
You know, he told me once that he had a conversation with Melania when he was considering running about whether he should do it. And she looked at him and said, you know, if you do it, you're going to win. Right? And he understood that as well. And there have been moments over the course of the campaign where it's been tough on both of them. Melania, too. And it requires so much sacrifice, especially for a family like the Trumps, which is very successful, have their own business. I mean, for most of us, it would be an upgrade to move into the White House.
Oh, it's an upgrade.
And it's absolutely an upgrade. But I'm just saying, as he said all along, he didn't have to do this. He's got a lovely life and a lovely lifestyle and a lovely family right where he is. And this required a lot of guts by Donald Trump. And boy, did it pay off for him tonight.
Chris Wallace, this will go down as probably as the greatest political upset we've ever seen.
Certainly that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I have to say, you know, it seemed like it was inevitable all night, but as I look around Studio F here and I see it, Donald Trump wins presidency, I just can't believe it. It just is stunning to me that he has won the presidency. It's extraordinary.
And look at the crowd outside that has waited here for hours and hours.
2:43 a.m.
It was worth the wait. They're clearly feeling. But look at the enthusiasm, which is something we saw from the beginning. And look, we all pointed out that crowd size don't necessarily translate to voters. We saw that with Mitt Romney. But in this election, there's no doubt about it, they did.
And we do have word that Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump to concede. Monica, you knew from early start of this campaign that he had tapped into something. And it was simple, the Make America Great Again. Despite anything else that he said, he came back to that line that is embossed on hats around America.
You know, for those of us who live and work in Manhattan, I often say, this is not normal. And when you go to the rest of the country and you really talk to the American people about what concerned them, about the issues that were dictating their votes this year, you understood that there was a massive groundswell against the bipartisan ruling class, and that Donald Trump is the ultimate outsider.
Hold on.
Really